This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at FULFILLRITE.com. What up, crowdfunders? Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for tuning in here. Right now, I'm in Brooklyn, New York, in my home recording this episode. I think you're going to love today's episode, guys. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go and check out some of the other episodes I published on the archives of this show. Lots of great content, lots of proven success stories, people who are telling you exactly how they're raising money, exactly how they're getting traffic. They're really just opening it up. You know, they're being very transparent. I think today's episode was also super transparent. I'm just amazed the fact that more and more entrepreneurs are using Kickstarter. More and more people are raising funding, are quitting their day job. They're doing things that are a little bit different from maybe what they've been doing for their entire life, their entire career. You know, Kickstarter is sort of the beginning of a transformative change in your life. I know that might sound a little bit like hokey, but it's true. You know, when you actually are able to transition from doing one thing to doing another thing, those opportunities, my friend, are very, very rare. It's really rare where you actually have a window of opportunity where you can shift from doing one thing to doing something else, or where you can go and you can launch an entirely new product line, something that you've never been doing before, or an entire new product into the world, and get feedback and get validation and get early adopter customers. And from that point, really, I mean, the world is your oyster, as they say. You can do what you want with that success. You can go out there and you can really milk that for some media attention. You can also go out there and you can continue to build, continue to put out even more products. I think that the stories that we've seen on this show have just really inspired me, I guess I would say. And it's made me want to up and level up my game. One of the favorite parts of my job, aside from interviewing creators and also putting out helpful content for you on my blog, on my YouTube channel, writing books, etc. One of my favorite parts of my job is doing my one-on-one coaching, because that's really where I think I can have the most impact on someone. I have never had someone come out of a coaching session and not said, "Oh my gosh, that was incredible. You shared so much great, helpful information. Thank you so much. We got to do another one really soon." So it's always been, to me, a win-win scenario, if you will, because I get to help people. I get to have the psychological benefits of helping someone start their company and grow their product and really market it effectively. But on the other end of the spectrum, they also get speeded up a heck of a lot. You know, it's going from, just kind of plodding along, trying out different things, so much on your mind, not really sure if you're doing the right thing, to literally being put on to light speed. I love to watch Star Trek when I was younger and when I was growing up. It's like when you're using the hyperdrive, you're going light speed. It's just like, whoa, it's like an entirely different experience. So that's what a lot of the coaching students have said about the impact I've had on their campaign. And I'd love to have that same impact on yours. This is something that I offer. I offer one-off coaching sessions, and I also offer long-term programs. So if you're interested in that, you can check out this link. You can give me a little bit more information about your project, about your category, about your budget, the things going into this, what you're expecting to raise on Kickstarter, the type of category that you're in, if you're going with Indiegogo, etc. So if you're interested in signing up for a one-off coaching session with me, with Sal, you can go to this link, crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Just enter all of the information there. It should take you literally like, I don't know, 5 minutes. It just gives me an idea of what you're working with here. And then we can set up our first call and we can really set your campaign up for success. But without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today I'm talking with the founder of Talsam, which we'll get to in just a second. But Omar, he has launched a Kickstarter campaign, has raised more than $30,000 on Kickstarter from more than 140 backers. And it's also a really neat product. I wanted to have him on because I actually wanted to talk about this new way of sort of combining fashion and technology. So it's kind of interesting. Omar, welcome to the show.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Could you tell us a little bit about the product, who it's for, paint a bit of a picture of how you use it?
Absolutely. So Talsam is designed primarily to be really high-end jewelry piece first. We've infused it with some technology to kind of give it obviously more functionality. And the idea is it's jewelry, smart jewelry that keeps you connected with loved ones. So for example, say I buy a Talsam charm for my wife, I'd be able to let her know I was thinking about her just by sending her a message using our app. The idea is the charm would light up like a shooting star, and that's how she would know that she'd have a message. The charm also has a button built in that allows the wearer to unlock private messages they receive using the app. In that sense, actually, the charm almost functions like a key, to unlocking secrets. Mm-hmm. It's very basic two-factor authentication, but I think it does the trick, at least in terms of offering more private and intimate communication. And then the other really big feature in the charm, again, through the button, is an SOS alert. So say my wife needed my help, she could press a button on the charm for a few seconds, and then I would automatically receive an SOS alert by email and SMS with her location, and I'd also get an automatic phone call that lets me know that she needs my help. Mm-hmm. So in terms of functionality, really designed for situations where you want to let someone know that they're cared for. You want to also, in a sense, let them feel safe, loved, and, like I said, cared for, which really suits long-distance relationships quite well, relationships between siblings, sons, daughters, and their parents, especially in situations, let's say, where they're apart and you're worried about maybe your parents' well-being.
Yeah, exactly. So is this a necklace, a bracelet, a watch? Is it a ring? What kind of jewelry we're talking about?
That's a great question, actually. So what we did, we spent months actually researching, exploring jewelry design, getting inspiration from the jewelry world, because we noticed a trend in existing wearable tech where they were being designed as technology gadgets first, rather than jewelry first. And so what you'd find is I found it at least very restrictive to see that I could only wear a wearable tech product as a bracelet or as a watch, and I didn't have any flexibility there. So what we did in response to that, actually, we designed Talsam to be a very modular charm. Mm-hmm. And the piece itself has 2 rings on either end that allow it to be attached to a bracelet and necklace chains. So it can actually be worn as a bracelet or a necklace. And what we've done is we've actually built the initial set or initial collection of accessories, roughly 5 bracelets and 5 different necklaces that are compatible with the charm. And they're different styles to suit different occasions. So the idea is, a person could own the charm and could own like 7 or 8 different accessories with it and wear the charm in completely different ways, for work one day or for a cocktail party another day. And it would be totally versatile and flexible to suit those different occasions.
It's a really neat product. I've actually never seen jewelry sort of combined with technology in this way. It's also it looks elegant. It looks like something you'd buy in a jewelry store. So it's really neat product. I'm just kind of curious, your background, like how did you come up with this idea? Like, is this your first company? Have you done other startups or something like that? Would love to hear a bit about that.
Sure. So I'm, I guess, what I would describe myself as kind of a struggling serial entrepreneur. Basically, someone who started. I've started a number of different companies over the last 11 years. So I've kind of been, in the tech world for 11 years with different ventures. And to be honest, none of them that really, really took off. So I've kind of just been experimenting and, doing traditional work in parallel. And so the latest, Talsam is actually a brand that's part of a larger company that I started called Chipped. And Chipped is all about combining the physical and digital in different ways. And really our premise or our mission is to help people connect online in more fun and personal ways. Mm-hmm. And the way we kind of position it, the way we like to say it, or we internally at least, we say that we exist because 2018 is like 1984, and we kind of, when we say that, we think about the really famous commercial that Apple had back in the day that really set Apple on its path, where they tied releasing their line of computers at that time to the whole idea of 1984, because it was in 1984 being like 1984. And for us, we have similar inspiration there. So under Chipped, we have another brand called Story Chips, again, with a similar premise where we produce greeting cards and stickers that let people share digital messages. So for example, say it's someone's birthday, I could record a video message on my phone and link it to a physical greeting card that I give someone. Mm-hmm. And then that person would scan a code on the card to watch the video message I recorded for them.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So basically you not only had experience of launching different ventures, you know what goes into launching a new product, the difficulty of assembling a team. I was looking here through your campaign page. You have a pretty decent team put together here. I mean, with people helping with jewelry design, industrial design, marketing, etc. How did you go out there and actually assemble a team behind the product?
It's a great question, and I'll tell you that's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing I personally have ever had to do, and I would bet that it's probably the hardest thing any entrepreneur faces when they're trying to build a business. I would love to tell you that there was a scientific approach. There really wasn't. It started off actually with one hire, and it kind of just built from there. So most of the team is actually based in Lisbon, in Portugal. Mm-hmm. And my first hire from that group was our current CTO, whose name is Tiago Pereira. We hit it off right away, really good chemistry. Everything went, from the beginning, there was a very good fit there. So even though I was in New York and he was in Portugal, we went for it. And things worked out in such a way that I started building the team around him. So we started bringing in additional programmers, designers, and all that. And it kind of just worked out both through his network and, happenstance in a way. We ended up building this team, especially on the engineering and design side. On the industrial design and jewelry design, that's actually a studio based in New York called Lead Off Studio. It's a husband and wife team, Jordan and Jessica Diatlo. I've known them for years. I've worked with them on different projects, and I consider them to be friends as well as, colleagues or people that I collaborate with. So it's really, even it's kind of a mishmash of people that we've kind of become a group of friends in a way, and it's all walks of life. So there's another person I want to mention who really helped us on the path of hardware engineering, because I knew nothing about hardware engineering, and even now I know enough to get by. I'm not an engineer myself, but for example, someone like Jacob Rosenthal, who's one of our lead firmware engineers, but he's also just in general been a real driving force behind the hardware itself. I met through complete serendipity. I mean, I hired an Android developer and it didn't work out. We ended up parting ways after a couple of months, but he introduced me to Jacob while we were still working together. And, Jacob and I have now been working together for almost 3 years. So
you never know.
Yeah. No, never know. And I really believe a lot of it is in trial and error, because you can interview someone 20 times and you can have great interviews with them. But then until you actually work with them, you don't really know if there's a fit, how the chemistry is, what they're really like.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just think that HR and team building is always going to be the most challenging aspect of building your own business.
Well, it's your job as an entrepreneur. Like your role pretty much is initially you have to spot the opportunity, you have to capitalize on it. But as it gets going, more and more your role becomes team building and also funding. It's the job that kind of keeps the lights on. So and it keeps the engine flowing and working and such. Especially on the side of funding. So if this was your project, you were raising money under this other brand, were you self-funding all of this? Did you get like VC funding? How are you actually I guess putting the resources behind this team?
So it's a combination of self-funding and angel investment. So I mean, I've just leveraged my own network to get investment in. I've steered clear of VC funding just for the time being. I just don't think is the right time for us. So thus far, yeah, it's kind of been myself and people in my network that have helped fund the company until this point.
How do you think that angel investment and self-funding is different from what you're doing now, which is on Kickstarter, where you're basically kind of offering this for pre-order and also giving people that chance to join you on the journey? How do you think that's different?
Listen, I think there are some big differences. I mean, one of the things I love the most about Kickstarter is that it allows you to validate your concept quickly and with a relatively limited risk. That's something no angel investor can do for you. Or you know what I mean? Because an angel investor you may have at most 5 or 10 investors in a business. So that's never going to be enough to really tell you whether or not the concept you're working on is viable, especially when you're talking about a piece of jewelry that's not necessarily going to align with the demographic that the angel investors come from. So I think Kickstarter really does give you that boost. And then the other thing is, unless you're very lucky with your angel investors, I think Kickstarter is a very nice launch pad for getting awareness about your product, and it helps a lot with on the marketing side of things as well.
Yeah.
So I think those are two big reasons. The other thing is Kickstarter, assuming you have a successful campaign, you already have, once you're done, you already have like a built-in group of, like you could say, evangelists or supporters who are passionate about what you're doing and will help get the word out about what you're doing, because they're, likely to be proud of being early backers of your project, assuming again that you had a successful campaign. Angel investors can do that but it's much more limited, and it's typically limited to their networks. It's not the same. And I would argue it's probably not even the same level of passion, in a lot of cases.
I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. On that point of having a successful campaign, because I know everyone listening to this show, we're all looking for tips and advice, ways that we can be more successful, not only with our own ventures, but also on Kickstarter. How is it that you were able to engineer this raise where you surpassed your goal? And now you've raised, I think it's around $38,000. You surpassed your goal and you're doing really well. How is it that you were able to do that? And you did that, you surpassed your goal in the first week or so, I think less than a week.
Yeah, that's right. In the first 4 days. Well, what we did, and I think this is critical for anyone looking to launch their own campaign, we started marketing about 3 or 4 months before the actual campaign. So we started basically getting people to sign up, collecting emails, building a mailing list, essentially, using landing pages with nice visual imagery. So we invested in in photo shoots. We invested in taking really nice photography and images. We invested early on in creating at least design prototypes that we could shoot. And then we used all of those assets to create landing pages that we would then funnel people to. So we, in parallel with that, we started running Facebook ads. And we did that over 3 or 4 months, where we were driving traffic through Facebook back to these landing pages, getting people to sign up. And in exchange for signing up, the incentive is that, you're going to be one of the first to be able to access the project. You're going to get access to this exclusive discount. So if this is a product you're interested in, why not get it half off? So we did that. We invested a lot of energy there. We did a lot of experimentation, a lot of A/B testing with ads, with landing pages over the course of 3 or 4 months to the point where by the time we launched our campaign, we had around 7,000 people signed up.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So that made a huge difference, because then the second we switched it on, we already had a ready-made receptive audience that knew about the project, that were interested in it. And that gave us a very quick results, as you mentioned.
So you said 7,000?
Yeah, we had roughly 7,000 people signed up.
That's insane, man. That's a really good tribe.
Yeah, it is. And so, I mean, yes, I'm happy with the results we've had on Kickstarter so far, but I still kind of expect more, and I'm still hoping that over the last 6 days we can really boost those numbers.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to doing that, you built up the email list to more than 7,000 people. Obviously, that contributed a lot to your funding when you were first getting going. Where were other people discovering the campaign, or where were they pledging from?
So if I look at the breakdown, the majority are from our mailing list. And then sort of related to that, not directly, but related to that is our Facebook page. So we have around 3,500 followers on Facebook. And so a lot of people were kind of coming through there, especially because we continued our marketing activity on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And obviously another bunch came from my own network, the team's network. We pushed it out to people in our network. So we have, friends and family backing the project as well. And, through Kickstarter as well, you get a small percentage. And we've been written up in a few magazines and online magazines and blogs that they've also driven a bit of traffic and resulted in a few pledges as well. So I would say those are kind of the main sources to this point.
Mm-hmm. It seems as though most of the success is coming from that initial activity where you actually primed this campaign for success. You went out there and you prepared and you put together these landing pages and you did the photo shoots like you mentioned, and you really got things together, got the assets together in order to create these really effective landing pages. Do you have any other advice for people out there that haven't yet touched that phase, that stage in the process yet? Do you have any advice on creating a good landing page, or on Facebook advertising, or specifically on that section?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first thing I'll say is I would suggest or advise people not to put unnecessary pressure on themselves when it comes to the timing of the campaign. It's good to have a goal. Like in our case, we originally wanted to launch the campaign a month earlier, but we adjusted that. We changed that because honestly, we wanted to try and get more signups before we launched. So we were flexible there, and I would just encourage people to give themselves a break and be flexible and launch your campaign when it feels right and when you feel good about it, not when you by some arbitrary deadline that you set 6 months ago. That's just a side note. In terms of landing pages and ads, I think you have to experiment a lot. You have to try a lot of different variations. It's really surprising how small changes can have a very big impact. So, using a word including, for example, the term 50% off versus not including the term 50% off and just saying the price difference, you'll get different results. Trying, let's say, 5 or 6 different images of the product in different scenarios and comparing. So I would say you have to constantly be running tests and comparing and adjusting and implement, acting on the feedback you're getting. In our case, we kept we kept testing, comparing landing pages. We'd filter them down to the highest performing. We'd compare the two highest performing. And then when we figured out which one was the highest performing, we'd funnel all our resources to that. And then we'd repeat it. And we kept doing the same thing with our Facebook ads. So with our ads, we'd start small. We'd run like a bunch of different ads with slightly different variations, like slightly different images or slight changes in copy. We'd compare the results before we made a big investment. So we'd invest initially maybe $10 an ad, $5 an ad. We'd see which ones were performing best, and then we'd narrow it down and until we narrowed it to a point where we could start to increase investment in the individual ads.
Mm-hmm.
And then so,
yeah,
I would say you have to take that kind of approach where you experiment a lot and you react. So iterate as much as possible.
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount. One of the hard things I think about your product is when you're going out there and you're trying to target people, you have such a different, like, interesting new product. You know, there aren't very many out there that are like this. Wearable fashion, specifically combined with technology, is just not that, I think, large or mainstream yet. So that's also, I think, part of the secret sauce is understanding how to target people. You know, should you be targeting people into fashion or into technology, or, like, you know, it's kind of, or people into, you know, giving gifts. It's one of those things also, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I should have mentioned. I mean, that's one of the things you test as well. You know, and we did a lot of tests there where we found basically that for some long distance people in long distance relationships seem to jump on the concept more than others. So we, you know, it was exactly to your point.
It's so much like learning, and it's not just learning about like the techniques and like the stuff that we're sharing here today, the stuff that you're sharing amazingly here in terms of where pledges are coming from, how to do a launch, but it's actually learning about those people that you're looking to serve, those people that you're looking to help in the future. And I think while it can seem like a lot of work, that actually pays off a ton in the long run, because you're probably going to be running ads after Kickstarter when you're actually shipping out this product. You have to know about your customers. You have to know how to improve your marketing messaging. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing I did that I would recommend to any founder of a project that's, you know, they're planning to launch on Kickstarter. I basically personally managed our Facebook page and our Facebook Messenger account. So I was the one who was receiving the questions and the messages and the comments from people. And that allowed me to stay very close to the customer, to understand what they were finding appealing, to understand what they weren't finding appealing, and what the kind of really the important purchasing criteria was for them. So I'd recommend that to anyone. Like, I would say, don't outsource that. You know, it's better if it's in your hands, and because it gives you the closest connection to your customers. In your research, what did you find to be the case? How much should you budget for things like Facebook ads? Like, if you have, let's just say, a $100,000 goal, or you're looking to raise $100,000, what percentage of that would you recommend that people should try to budget for that kind of activity, that marketing activity? I mean, it's that's a tough one to answer. I think it depends a lot on the specifics of your product, your market, and your goals. I can tell you, in our case, you know, we budgeted like around $15,000 to $20,000 all in
on all marketing related. I'm being very transparent with you, but on all marketing related stuff. So Facebook ads, landing pages, all of that stuff. And that fueled us for a solid 4 months, right? And we generated 7,000 plus email signups and around 3,500 Facebook followers. So I would say you could look at that as a sort of a benchmark and figure it out from there. If you have a smaller goal or if you have a more clearly defined audience, you may be able to get by spending less. In our case, part of the reason we had to budget a bit more was because of the point you mentioned, which is it's a brand new product. There aren't any clear references or benchmarks. So we, in a way, are trying to figure out as we go, what audience is our product resonating with. So we had to do a lot of experimenting early on.
Well said. Well said. Also, I appreciate you for being so transparent. I think that's amazing, and it's going to help so many people out there that are looking to create new products and put new things into the world. We've been talking a lot about strategy. I want to ask you more of a personal question here in terms of your vision and why it is that you are an entrepreneur. What is it that you want? What is it that you're reaching towards? Obviously, you imagine you have a vision, something that you're trying to accomplish in the world. What would you say that mission is that you want to accomplish?
There are two big things for me. One is to have a positive impact on the world around you, and that can be your community, that can be your city, your state, your country, or the world. It really depends on you. In my case, I just want to have a positive impact on people. And the driving force behind Chip is because I'm seeing a lot of worrying things happening online. And a lot of this has come out over the last few months in terms of how the big social media networks are treating their customers. How, all these big web, internet companies, how they treat their customers, how they handle your privacy, how we're kind of losing intimacy and humanity in the way that we're connecting and communicating as people. And that, for me, is the real driving force behind this particular company and Story Chips, Chipped, and Talsam alike. Because the idea is we want to offer people a more personal and human way to connect again, and we want them to know that they have privacy, that they can communicate, that they can feel free to express themselves the way that they want, and that they aren't being monetized, So that's something I feel very strongly about. And then the other thing for me is more from my unique, but I guess my own personal background, which is that I'm originally Lebanese. I grew up in the Middle East. I still have roots there, all my family's there, most of my friends are there. So I feel like it's a region that is going through a lot of turbulence and difficult times and has been for a while. But we do have a budding ecosystem of startups and entrepreneurs who are starting to come up, starting to emerge. And so without giving myself too much importance, I would like to at least be able to act as a role model for those people, to show someone who grew up in the Middle East can go and start a successful company that can make it in the US, because I believe in the power of examples in breaking these kind of mental boundaries that people have. So those are the two things that really drive me and have driven me in pursuit of this particular project, and this company.
I think that's really selfless, because just even seeing other people succeed, even listeners of the show, hearing that other people are all the time raising money on Kickstarter, they're like, wow, I guess I could also do that. There's no reason I can't do that. I just have to work hard. I just have to think. I have to plan. And I think for someone growing up from either your community or growing up looking like you or relating to you in some way, and they seeing you be successful as an entrepreneur, of course, they're going to be way more likely to think that they can also do that, and to maybe think outside a little bit of the box that they grew up in. So I think that's awesome, man.
No, thanks. Absolutely.
Cool. So where can people go and check out and learn more about your projects? You have 6 days to go here, so people can still grab a copy of Talsam, and they can learn more about it. Where can they go to check that out?
So they can go to our website, which is talsam.com, talsam.com. And they can also find us on Kickstarter. So our Kickstarter project page has a lot of information. There's a video on there that's also on YouTube as well. I would recommend those places. We're also on Facebook at My Talsam. So yeah, those would be the main places I would check out.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing all this great information, sharing how you were able to launch this project, the marketing behind it, being super transparent. And also, I think the vision that we should all have of the future, because every single one of us, you don't necessarily have to be from the Middle East. You don't have to be from New York or wherever. We all have people that just look up to us naturally. And by setting a good example with good values, and also by being transparent and working hard and being successful, we encourage a lot more entrepreneurs to do that also. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing all this amazing information with listeners.
No, thanks for having me, Sal. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you got a ton of value out of today's episode. I really think that this guest was very, very transparent. Like he I think went almost like 2x, 3x of what other guests we've seen on this show, and just sharing a ton of what you actually need to do in terms of your marketing budget if you want to put your campaign in the right league. And by that, I mean, with so much competition on Kickstarter, so much competition with crowdfunding in general, you really have to up your game with quality images, with quality marketing, surround yourself with great people, all this kind of stuff. I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast episode. And also, go and check out some of the other archives I got out there. A lot of other great episodes, depending on the category you're launching in, other types of guests, people who have raised six figures, people who have raised larger amounts, $1 million campaigns. So I've really tried to have a breadth of different types of experiences on this show, and also different types of stories. Some people, like the guest today, they actually started a different company before they launched their Kickstarter campaign. Other guests have literally started from nothing. This is their first project. This is their first startup company. It's really exciting. And even other guests still, they're doing something completely different with their life. And they feel this calling. They feel like they want to start a board game. They want to publish a new app, or they want to do something in the world. And they sort of follow that calling, and they ante up. They're willing to quit their day job. They're willing to really put everything on the line for this dream of one day enjoying their work. How about that? One day you're going to actually enjoy your work. That's something that for me, I never thought growing up that I would actually find something that I was so passionate about, like crowdfunding. I was always trying to search for myself, always trying to find my path. And really, for me, crowdfunding has been a calling. There's like no other word for it. I've been doing it for 6+ years. It's been incredible just to watch the growth of some of my students over time. I love it. I love putting out content. I love the passion that I can infuse in these different episodes, and also in the videos I put out on YouTube. It's really almost like a marriage. I would be lying if I didn't say, in a marriage, there are times when I get tired, especially around the holidays, when just work is crazy, so much to do, so many people, so many emails and all that kind of stuff, so many comments. And sometimes it does get a little bit overwhelming, but I just always remember the fact that, wow, the work that I am doing, number one, is helping entrepreneurs, helping people that are new to the business realm actually go out there and create a life for themselves that they love. But in addition, it's transforming, it's almost like a multiplier effect. It's transforming all the lives of their customers. It's all the people that they're impacting. And whenever I remind myself, I'm like, heck no, like maybe today I'm a little bit tired, or I didn't have enough coffee, or, for whatever reason I didn't get enough sleep. But it doesn't really matter. It just sort of reawakens that passion inside of me to help you. And I try to, I obviously talk a little bit about this and a bit about my personal life more so on the show, but this is all sort of behind, I would say, my goal to bring revenue to your business, to actually make it so that you have a smash success with your crowdfunding campaign, to make it so that you don't only hit your goal, but you dramatically exceed your fundraising goals. So you can get media attention, so you can get people talking, so you get that early base of customers, which really jumpstarts your business. And in that way, you can sell more products in the future. You can upsell them in different ways. It's really the beginning of this entire transformative change in your life. And I feel privileged to be able to help you along the way, whether it's with just, with my free content like this show, whether it's with my YouTube channel, with my lower end products, the Kickstarter launch formula, some of the other books that I have out there. But if you're interested in more of like a one-on-one personal touch, you're more interested in me tailoring my advice to you, looking at your campaign, seeing how you can improve, reviewing your video, reviewing your campaign page, your landing pages, your ads, like all that kind of stuff. I do offer one-off coaching for students that are interested in just getting me to look over and make sure that you're on the right track, and also to correct you, so that you don't continue making these mistakes. I swear, like, I have never had a student who hasn't walked out of one of these sessions like, man, that was awesome. Like, that was incredible. My goal is that when you actually sign up for my coaching, that it feels like you got 10x of value out of it. That's really my whole goal, and I guess my principles and my values behind my company. Always under promise, over deliver. So if you're interested in learning more about that, and also you can, via this link, you can share with me a bit more about your project, tell me about your funding goal, tell me about the type of product, also your budget, like all that kind of stuff. You can go to this link at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching. And that's for the one-off coaching sessions. Of course, I also do more long-term programs and that kind of stuff, but that's just for the one-off coaching at crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thanks for joining me on this episode, and I'll see you next time.